It is now my honor to introduce them to you all. Okay, so our first speaker is Amira from Yes 11. She is a highly skilled licensed aircraft engineer at Asia Aerotechnic. Currently, she plays a pivotal role there by overseeing a team of technicians in handling critical aircraft maintenance checks. Amira's pursuit of a career in aviation led her to participate in a trainee aircraft maintenance engineering program. During her 2-year training period, she gained valuable hands-on experience through on-the-job trainings with renowned companies such as Systematic Aviation Services, Berjaya Air, Malaysian Airlines, and Aerot Aerospace. You can all expect to gain valuable insights into the aviation field from her expertise and passion for the industry. Thank you, Amira, for joining us today. Now, moving on to our second speaker, Hafizi from Yes 10. So Hafizi is a highly accomplished legal professional and holds a distinguished Master of Law degree from the University of Pennsylvania Law School, which he attended as a Fulbright and Dean Scholar. He has had diverse experiences throughout his career, having worked as a foreign advisor to the Rwandan government, a capital markets regulator, and a corporate legal professional. Currently, he is a public policy consultant at an American firm based in Kuala Lumpur. Notably, his passion for global youth representation and international affairs led to his election as a youth advisor to the World Federation of United Nations Associations. With his multidimensional knowledge and commitment to public policy, Hafizi is poised to provide valuable insights and perspectives during our event today. Thank you, Hafizi, for agreeing to be a panelist. Now, last but not least, our third speaker is Sylvia from Yes 12. Sylvia is a dynamic professional with a Bachelor of Honors in Psychology. As a project executive at SP Sedia Foundation, she managed numerous social initiatives, successfully completing over 100 projects in 2 years. At People Systems Consultancy, Sylvia excelled as a business strategy associate, playing a key role in the company's early expansion. Her proactive approach led her to a leadership position in the communications department, where she now oversees a team of 4 professionals driving effective communication strategies. Sylvia's expertise and diverse experiences will allow her to offer valuable insights into social and corporate sectors. Thank you, Sylvia, for being here with us today. Okay, so now that we've gotten to know our panelists, let's go through our agenda for today before we start off with our first session. So for the first part, we'll have an interview session with the panelists where I'll ask them some general questions about the working industry and how to navigate it. So after this main session, we'll break off into breakout rooms where you all as participants get to ask more industry-specific Q&A questions to the panelists. So we'll talk more about that later. And the final agenda for today will be final advice and closing remarks from all of our panelists. Okay, so I guess now we're ready to start off with our first question for the panelists to discuss. Okay, so the first question I have is entering the workforce and learning to adapt can be a hard process. So especially since most of us don't have much of an idea about what to expect when we get our first job. So what are some common challenges that you see faced by fresh graduates when they first enter the workforce? So Amira, would you like to start us off?
Hi, hello everyone. I'm Amira. I think with the question that's asked, I believe that mainly fresh graduates facing currently now, especially when they go for an interview, I feel that the company or the employers are seeking people who is much more experienced than the one that they have been asking for. For example, they will be advertising entry-level position. But then when during the interview, they will be asking like as if you need to have a certain experiences or a certain skill compared to the years that they are being asking for. So I feel that is like one of the challenges lah. It's like macam you are fresh graduate, tak masuk lagi kerja, tapi but they want to interview you as an entry level, tapi as if like expecting that you have like 5 or 5 years behind your back. Macam tu lah. So that's like my opinion.
Okay, thanks, Amira. Sylvia, do you have anything to add on this?
I think I agree with Amira, but I think for where I am, it's also like looking at the experience in school or like outside of school that you manage to accumulate. So it's not just like work experience that we're looking for. It's also like how a person carry them carries themselves, which I feel is one of the biggest like quote unquote challenge lah, because like it feels very intimidating when you are the one getting interviewed, right? And when you get intimidated and you become nervous, right? And you tend to just lost everything. Maybe like on resume or maybe like as a person you have the skills and you're the right fit for it, but because of that intimidation, that feeling of like, oh maybe I'm not I don't know if I'm good enough. That I think is also one of the challenges that like I've come across lah from the people that I've interviewed also.
Okay, interesting. Hafizi, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think I would agree with both of the speakers, Amira and Sylvia. I think most importantly is for you to show your relevance to your employers. And a lot of young graduates don't know that you don't have to necessarily be so technically sound, but from your experiences at while in universities or your internships, you can actually gain relevance through maybe how you carry yourself, your thinking skills, your ability to write in a way that your employers would expect, how you carry yourself, like how Sylvia mentioned. And most importantly is for you to be resourceful, even though you lack experience, but you can still be resourceful. And how you do this is through your development of EQ in your prior experiences. So if you're able to carry yourself well, then over time you'll be able to ask questions and make yourself more relevant to your fellow colleagues at the office, right? But a lot of young graduates don't realize this. They feel that it's all about being technically sound, but it's not so much of that. Because if you're able to realize that you can just adapt yourself very quickly in your new position and settle very quickly in your new responsibility, then I think it should be fine despite your limited experience. So it's all about getting used to it very quickly, but you won't be able to do that if you don't have much of an exposure, be it academic or non-academic prior. So internships are very important. Your activities outside of universities, your networking with people outside of your comfort zone, and just experiencing different things. It doesn't necessarily have to be related to jobs. I think that's going to be helpful for you to increase your adaptability. Yeah.
Yeah, I think to add on to what Hafizi said, I think it's all about like the potential, the perceived potential of like the person interviewing you or the person wanting to hire, like seeing that possibility or that potential. So if you can showcase that you have that potential to grow or the potential to be contributing well to the team, then I think that would definitely like score you a place at any job.
Yeah, like for me, I think because like my work is very, very technical. So my line of work will require someone who has like the hands-on skills. Like if you don't have the hands-on skills, then it will be a lot harder for us to, to be relying on you to carry out the work. For example, you can be excelling so much during the interview, but then on the day of doing the work, it's like, okay, like nothing. So I guess it's somehow part of it is true on the Hafizi's part said, like you need to also show yourself more during the interview. But then at the same time, how are we able going to, making them believe that you have that skill? Like, are you able to explain the work that you need to carry out, or are you able to give an example of the skills or the experiences that you had before, be it like a volunteering work that you've done before, or like you've changed a bulb before, or you've changed a doorknob before, if we're talking about a technical part lah. Yeah.
Okay, so those are all very interesting responses. So from what I've heard, there are some things that maybe you can't really control, like what they want to interview for entry-level job, but they want you to have experience. So that's something we can't control. But I also heard things that we can control. So like what Hafizi said, skills and stuff like that. So I'd like to talk more about that. In general, what skills or qualities are highly sought after by employers nowadays? So let's say if I'm a fresh grad and I want to enter the workforce, what skills and qualities should I look to equip myself with so that employers would think I'm employable?
So maybe I can start first because I just want to respond to what Caesar said just now. So generally, when employers say that they will only hire people with X number of experience, especially for entry-level jobs, it's not so much because they want to look for those experiences, the years of experiences, but because they assume that because you've worked for a number of years, you'll be better than just straight out of university really apply. If you're good, you're good. And I don't discriminate based on someone with 3 years of experience or 0 years of experience if that person is able to show your relevance, your skills, right? And I agree with Amira that certain jobs are more technical than others. Like my job is not technical at all. So I think even if I have 10 years of experience, I might not still be able to do something as good as what Amira would expect, right? Because it's all about whether you're technically sound in that field. So that's separate. But in terms of a job that you are relevant in, then it's all about showing that you have all the soft skills required for you to do a good job, not necessarily work experience. So in my line of job, so I've worked as a lawyer and now as a consultant. I think the most important skill is for you to be able to carry yourself well. And this means maybe in terms of communication, you're able to deliver your ideas and messages very efficiently. That's number one. And then in terms of communication as well, then I expect you to be able to write well, be it in Malay or English, depending on your job scope. But most commonly in private sector is English. But also I expect at least someone to be able to mingle well with other people because working is about teamwork. Sometimes one person might be really smart, write very well, speaks very well, but don't gel well with people. Then it's problematic because in projects, we work in a team and you can't have a bad apple. So we'll have to filter it very, very thoroughly when it comes to hiring. And number four, it's also about making sure that you are able to deliver the work well, not necessarily just on the quality, but on other aspects of being a respectable a person, right? Like, for example, you've got to be punctual, you've got to be respectful, you have to be inclusive of other people's views. That means you have to be empathetic at the same time. And those soft skills are very important when it comes to fitting in your responsibility because it's not all about doing a good job if you're an asshole to other people, right? So lastly, you have to show some seriousness in whatever that you do. So one way of employers looking at how serious you are is by evaluating your grades, but I don't necessarily look at grades as much. Maybe a bare minimum is okay, like maybe a B and above. If someone has other issues, maybe your relative passes away or you face extreme challenges when studying, maybe if you got a C, I can still accept that. I've gotten C's myself, so so it's not really an issue. But what's more important is for you to show your seriousness and your commitment in whatever that you do. Say, for example, if you have volunteered before, I want to show that you really take responsibilities in what you do and not just showing your face at the very last minute. For example, if you are someone who's a project leader, like an event that you're having here, then I want to show that I want you to show that you were able to work together with your teammates to make sure that this program happens as how it's planned, right? So to me, that's very important. It's very honorable to me, and I take it very seriously in the hiring process. So in my view, it's a combination of soft skills and hard skills, but more 70% soft skills than hard skills. Because hard skills, if you have the right soft skill, then I can teach you how to do the hard skill very easily. And I've done that many times with a lot of younger people. So those are my 5 tips.
Yeah. I think for me, I definitely agree with the communication skills part. But I think that's one thing that I think really needs to be looked into because I think I would say 70% of the people that come for interview, if they speak well, sometimes they don't necessarily write well. But it's both is a non-discountable thing, especially if you're in skill that are in fields that are not non-technical like myself, right? We do CSR implementation. So if you can't speak or you can't write, it's really not going to bring you far because then you're probably going to be only good in one area of like work, but like other areas you need like other people to cover for you, or like you need other people to give you extra attention, then that's really something that should be looked into lah. That's one. And another thing that Hafiz mentioned also that I think is super important is teamwork. So is the ability to work with other people and also like see, I would say it's like finding your fit in the team. So like everybody have their own strength and everybody have their own weakness, right? So knowing that what is your strength and how can you use your strength to kind of like address a gap in the team, that is like really, really helpful. Because like for me, in speaking from my industry, right, we do CSR training. So everybody come in as a trainer, so everybody can train. But what is something that makes you different from all other trainers that can train or like can deliver, right? So that's that secret or the key to success. That's what you want to find out. Yeah. And I think being serious is super important. That's one thing also nowadays. I not sure if it's like a shift in culture or so, but I do see like people showing up at work with like ripped jeans and stuff, which they think it's okay, but actually to a certain level, like as much as it's your rights and stuff, at a professional setting, how you behave is also very important. How you carry yourself, how you dress. Yeah, that's something that can be improved lah from ourselves.
Yeah, I think I want to add a little bit one more. For me, one thing is trust and also honesty. Like, for example, right now I'm working as an engineer and I have few people that work under me. Like the technicians will carry out the job, for example, the removal, the installations. So imagine if the process of doing it, there's probably like a problem while carrying out the task given. So imagine if the technicians are keeping quiet on the problem or on the damage that's been done. I wouldn't know, although I can recheck, I can carry out an operational test, but I wouldn't know. So imagine if I sign and I release off the aircraft, then there's something happen. So I feel that honesty among the people who work and the supervisor is also very, very important, because you would want to be honest if you make a mistake. You would want to be honest when you are needed some help to improve on a certain task that you are doing, or when you run out of ideas, or when you are stuck on the things that you are trying to do. Be honest, because I feel that the youngsters are working in my company right now. All of them are competing with each other, and they feel that, okay, you know what, I need to show I'm better than my friends, I'm better than my peers. But then they will neglect the part whereby when they are competing, they are also showing their best, and then they become too overconfident at the same time. So I believe that, there's a need of like, okay, you know what, I'm here to learn. I wanna be helped by people. I want people to guide me, things like that. So I think one thing to conclude what I say is that you need to be open when people are guiding you. You also need to be open and acceptable when people are correcting your mistakes or errors. Yeah.
Yeah, I think to echo what Amira said, sorry, is that honesty is one part of it lah. But the second part to being honest is also to be resourceful. Like don't go to your leaders or your managers with a problem without a solution. So even if you're at your like end of the road, like you really don't know what else to do, right? Just go, be brave enough to go and say like, look, I've like looked through like 10 ways to do this and I still can't find the best way to do it. Could you like let me know, like out of this, what else can I do? Or is there anything else that I can try? So it's about like what Amir said, right? Be very honest about like what you need help with, but also don't go with an expectation that your leaders are gonna like solve your problems for you. Because at the end of the day, we're all like part of an organization to solve problems together, right? So go with a solution in mind as well.
I have one thing to add on to that. Okay, so it's like this. People have when they work, there are other factors, right? So in my line of work, we stress on human factors, meaning fatigue can be part of a problem. Lack of knowledge can be part of problem. Lack of awareness can be part of a problem when you work. when we're talking about just now, Sylvia was mentioning about need to have a solution come up before you even meet your supervisor. I want to somehow shift a little bit on that part. It's because of there are people who can bring good ideas, but they are scared to push the ideas to the supervisor or to the people that you work with. I believe coming from our culture, we tend to be like, oh, this person has more experiences than me. This person is much more older than me. I don't want to voice out. I might be wrong. I might be seen as someone who knows it all. But believe me, sometimes your ideas can mean a lot to the work or to the project that you guys are carrying out as a group. Sometimes the ideas can somehow, lift up the obstacles or can lift up the jalan buntu when you guys are discussing. So be assertive as you can and also do it in a proper and communicate in a proper way lah. Yeah. Rather than seeing it as someone yang macam nak jump the boundaries or jump the communication punya lines. Yeah.
I think those are all very interesting because a lot of skills that you all mentioned are more of to like soft skills. And young people like me, I think I'm still considered a young person. When we think about applying to jobs and getting our first job and all that, I think we tend to overlook those soft skills. We just think about, oh, I need to have the relevant experiences. I need to have this skill. But we don't think about things like perhaps communication or how we interact with other people. So the next question I want to ask has something to do with this. It's about networking. So Hafizi mentioned this now about how it's important to mingle around with people. And Sylvia and Amira also mentioned about the importance of communication. So how important is networking in the working industry? And what are some tips you have for building professional relationships?
Yeah, networking is very, very important. In fact, if you're well networked, you will not be unemployed for a very long time. So, like for example, networking can be looked as an activity by itself, but you have to understand it in the scope of you being involved in the community, right? So you don't necessarily say that I'm going to this event to network. So you go to an event just because you're interested in that event. For example, it's on animal rights or whatever else, music event, for example. You go there just to have fun. But along the way, just be a nice person and get to know people and be curious about people surrounding you. And then sooner or later, you'll get to know more and more people. So that by itself is networking. But of course, there's networking for casual purposes. There's networking for professional purposes. In professional settings, if you want to have those linkages with employers, for example, if you're interested to work in those companies, then you should be getting to know people who do what you want to do. For example, if you want to be a litigator in court, then try to get to know more litigators. Maybe first you can have a conversation with them at litigation-oriented events. And then maybe later on you can go to the court and mingle around, make some friends, or have a visit, study visit, or do internships. Internships is a good way of networking as well, because as you do work with people who are already in the industry, then naturally you'll get to know more people who are friends of your bosses, for example, or your other colleagues. So that's one way of getting to know more people professionally. But in a less serious way of doing it, perhaps the most straightforward is you attend those so-called networking events. They call themselves networking events, right? For a specific purpose. So some of these networking events are actually intended to hire people who voluntarily come out to attend these events. Like my firm does this pretty often, that we will hold events, but we don't call it networking events, but it's meant to network. And we actively seek out people who are really interested in the company and what we do. And then if we are equally interested, then we'll call you up for interviews or for a chat to begin with. So I guess the basic comes down to being nice, number one. Number two, only attend events that you're really interested in. Otherwise, there's no point. And number three, as you attend these events where you have a specific objective, then talk to the people that you have identified early on, right? For example, if you want to be an aircraft engineer and you know Amira is working in that company, then you ask Amira, who should I be talking to? Then Amira will be more than happy to share. Similarly for SPCT as well. So I think it's all about being able to read the room well. And over time, I guess you will not even realize that you're networking. Perhaps it's just something that is casual, like this one. This is, I would say, networking as well. Indirectly, I know of you already, Caesar, from this activity, right? So maybe in the future, if you want to apply to my firm, you're already one step in because I already know you. So that's how it works.
Yeah, I think for myself, because I don't do a lot of like networking event, but I would say to start with, if you don't know where to go, AFS is a good place to start because that's where I actually landed my first job as well with SB Satir because one of the seniors used to work in SB Satir. So yeah, it's all about like who you know and where you know. So like we all have this very big privilege of being part of a very well established network, which is Yes Alumni and AFS. So if this is somewhere that you intend to look into, just take the opportunity and know as many people in within the network as much as possible. Because actually there is so many people within the network that is doing so much great things in different industries. So it's about the willingness and the urge to want to do it. I think about networking, that's the first step to it is to want to do it. Because you cannot be like sitting behind, not saying anything at a networking event that that you're present and expect that people will know about you. Because like that's not how it works. It's about putting yourself out there and say, hi, I'm this and this, I'm so and so, and I'm looking at this and this. So make yourself available. Yeah.
I believe that lately I saw there's a different types of networking on LinkedIn. There are people who is interacting through comments and also saying congrats, saying all those how to say motivational replies with people. In my industry, a lot of people that have their own LinkedIn profile, they will post the work that they do, and then there are a lot of people who comment under the videos or under a post that they write, and then actually people are networking with each other in the comment section. So I believe that also like you can call it an e-networking at the same time. And like to echo what Hafiz was saying, that to reach out to people who you think that you want to get to be employed, you can actually pay a premium function on LinkedIn for you to reach out to the recruiter or to person who is not your connection, but then you can reach out to them or something like that. Because I know someone who did that, and it somehow able to land an interview. So that's one of the things that you can do lah. There's a lot of other ideas that you can do, but it's one of it lah.
Thanks for all those tips. So yeah, I think it's very interesting because before this, when I was I think 3 or 4 years younger, I never thought about all these like networking stuff. I didn't realize how important it would be in a working industry. And now the older I get, the more I hear how important it is to know people and to mingle around. And that is a big part of what will make you successful. So up to this point, I think we focus a lot on more of external stuff like or how you want to present yourself, what skills you want to equip with so that you're relevant to your job. But now I like to focus more on internal stuff, like personal stuff. So a question I have is that I'm sure a lot of people in our audience have also is how did you choose the right job? So what initially attracted you to your current career? Because because I think now a lot of young people, they are scared to choose a job because it's a job that you'll be doing for probably quite a long time, and we're afraid that we might make the wrong decision and end up hating our job. So how do we tackle that?
I think for me, right, it's all about putting yourself out there and exploring. Because how I landed up my first job was because of AFS. I knew somebody that was working there, and I was already doing a lot in AFS that time. I was just volunteering week to week, right? So they're like, if you're doing this, why don't you try working in a corporate foundation, which is like more or less also doing like volunteering work, but as a full-time job. So I went into it with that sort of under psychology. And I knew I didn't want to practice psychology right away after I graduate. So it was one of those things that it's like, yeah, I have like, some years of experience doing something similar. And I know somebody in there, so that would work out for me. Then I went. And then actually, surprisingly, I did it for 2 years and I'm like, okay, I'm getting comfortable because it's been the same thing for this long. So I went into recruitment actually. I went into tech recruitment just purely out of curiosity to see if I could do sales, number one, and if that recruitment is my thing. I only lasted 5 months in there, by the way. And then I went to my next job, which is my current job in people systems. And I've been here for like this is my 5th year. So moral of the story that I'm trying to tell is that you will have to try it out at one point in your life to know that if it works for you or if it doesn't work out for you. For like, at least in my field, I don't know if this is applicable to like fields like Amira is in, but definitely like for non-technical, there's something that you would have to go through at some point of your life.
Like Sylvia mentioned, right, just now, like for me, my industry is very, very technical. So you need to somehow plan early on. Meaning you need to have the interest very, very early rather than you realize like, I want to do this. But me, since I'm small, I know that I want to work it up fixing aircraft. So that's very interesting because if not for aircraft, maybe probably I'd be fixing cars, like, or I'd be fixing appliances, or I'd be fixing things. I feel that you need to know what you like first. Apa yang awak suka nak buat? You will be putting yourself into an industry where you will be working every day with that. Some of the work might be only on the weekend you get off. Sometimes the jobs you only get a day off on Sunday. So you wanted to choose something that you are excited to learn, especially when you go to work. Oh, I'm gonna learn something new today. Oh, suffer the whole time or suffer your whole life. So I mean, at the same time also, I don't want to be saying that because it's privilege to say that, hey, I want to do this. It's privilege to say that I want to study and do this. But there are people who is like underprivileged and they have no choice to just grab whatever that they can at the very beginning of their stage of life after having finished study. But then always think that when you want something, go and do it. Go and work towards it. Because I pernah jumpa orang, they work in one industry because they want to collect the money to fund their studies to learn about something else. So it's like a batu loncatan to work on something that they really, really have interest in. Like this person would want to do bakery and they want to open their own cafe, but they think that, okay, I need modal, I need money beforehand, but I'm forced to work as what I'm working now. So I need to collect the money. So they work and then resign and then they go on and move on and take classes and all. So I believe that jangan rasa that terbuntu ataupun terstuck ke apa, rezeki tu ada dekat mana-mana je lah. That's why I think.
I think just to go on a little bit about like technical, right? Because recently in my company we have a new joiner that was from an aviation engineering background, and then she has to quit her job because of health issues. So then she took like a year off, and then she went full on into digital marketing, and then she just pivoted from engineering full on to like marketing on the other side of the spectrum. So why I'm bringing this up is that I just want to remind you guys that you may or may not get it right on your first try right after you graduate, but there's always time and chance for you to still like pivot and go on to another track. It's just that is it difficult? Yes, it's gonna be difficult, but you just have to put all you have into it and make it happen. Whatever you want, you have to make it happen for yourself. So just don't get so fixated about making the right choice. It's about continuously improving and going into the path that you want to go into. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just add a little bit. I agree with what Amira and Sylvia said. The key is to recognize what are the skills and activities that you like to practice on or you like to do. So Amira likes to fix things. She do it very early on. Sylvia likes to be involved with communities. And the job is just an extension of what you like. So you don't have to categorize it in a way that I'm an engineer or lawyer or doctor. It's not relevant anymore nowadays. So it's all about pursuing what you want to do and what are your life goals. Some people are motivated by money, some people are motivated by passion, some people want independence, some people want flexibility. So your jobs would follow what you prioritize in life. Just because you study ABC doesn't mean you have to be working in the same field. I've pivoted many times. It's fine. So it's all about continuously exploring your interests, your life priorities. And then eventually, when you have partners and responsibilities like children, for example, then those priorities will also change. And over time, you might also have to transition from one job to another. So always make yourself flexible. Don't be fixated in one.
Thanks for all the advice. I'm sure our audience will find it very helpful because I think as a young person, I can speak for all of us when I say it's a large source of anxiety when we think about what we want to choose, what we want to pursue for the rest of our lives. And I think from my point of view, a large reason for that is because we see a lot of, maybe not a lot, but quite a few adults around us that seem to hate their jobs. They find it very boring. They don't feel motivated. And I guess the next question I had to ask is, let's say, okay, now I already explored a lot of things. I know what I like now, and I've gotten my first job. How do I try to keep myself motivated and passionate about the job? Because, I'll be going in every single day for don't know how many years. And how do I prevent myself from finding it boring and hate?
That's not a way. You'll have to experience it. So what you think that job is from the outside is very different from what it is. And of course, when you say a job, right, it's very different from one company to another as well. For example, if you're working in company A now, but you like doing the job, you like fixing things, for example, it doesn't mean that your life is fully dependent in that company A ecosystem. So you can choose to work elsewhere, but this will happen through the network that you've built as well. You'll have to continue talking to other people and make new friends and ask around for people who are already experiencing different things. Or if you idolize someone and you want to be like that person one day, right? So maybe you reach out to that person and ask how his or her life experiences have been. So this can influence how you make up your mind as well. I'm not recommending, or I'm not saying that you should be jumping from one job to another, but it's not wrong to do that. I jump jobs pretty often as well. But it's all about finding easily and as direct as it can be. Some people are lucky to have it just the first time, but there are many ways towards that end goal, and that end goal doesn't necessarily have to be with that one company or one country even. So now there's so many opportunities beyond where you live, for example, and you don't sometimes have to move out. You can work for an American-based company or a Singapore-based company without being there and get paid as what the Singaporeans or Americans are being paid. So there's a lot more flexibility now compared to 10 years before. So don't limit yourself to one option or one route. Always explore different avenues for you to achieve your goal.
Yeah, I think it's like always putting yourself out there and be aware of what is available out there is one of those things. But like touching on, because Hafizi pretty much said a lot on like the work side of like, defining a job and all. But I think for me personally, it's also how do I stay motivated is that you don't let your work define your life, if that makes sense to you guys. Like, don't let your job be the only reason you're alive. Like, you are not alive because you have to wake up and go to work in the morning and come back from work at the evening. So you work, let's say, 8 hours a day or like some 10 to 12, but there's still some amount of time that you have that belongs to you that you can do other things that you enjoy. So for me, how I stay motivated is that I don't let my job be like 100% of my life. I'm very mindful about how I spend like my non-working time doing things that I actually enjoy and give me like energy to continue. So then, yeah, that could be something that you look into also. But like what Hafizi said is very important is that don't let the whole like, oh, how do I stay motivated? How do I like my job? Like stop you from trying. That shouldn't be a reason for you to be like, I don't think I'm gonna like it, so I'm not gonna do it.
Yeah, Amira, do you have anything to add on this?
Sorry, I was dropped off the call just now.
Oh, okay. So we were just talking
Yeah.
about how to keep ourselves motivated in a job. Oops, I think we lost Samira again.
Yeah.
Okay, it's okay. I think we can move on to the next question first and go back to her later. So okay, so let's say now I already know what I like. I've gotten a job. I found a way to keep a balance and know how to keep myself motivated. Um, the next question would be, I think a lot of people think about how of employers.
Wait, I'm sorry.
Oh, Amira, you're back. Okay, I think you can hear from Amira. So before this, we were talking about how to keep ourselves motivated and passionate about our job, even though we're doing it every single day for who knows how many years.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to talk about my experience. My work is very, how to say, very demanding in terms of timing. Sometimes, because we have to meet the turnaround time of the aircraft departure, sometimes we play a lot with time. And there are times when I had to work 3 weeks straight without a rest day. And some of the days at the very end, I have to work until 12 at night just to finish off the aircraft and to make the aircraft serviceable. So there are times when I feel that, oh my God, this work is like making me like that. So I had that. I have to be honest, I had that feeling. But then again, I sit down like, okay, you know what? Like, is this the work that I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life? And then I take a few step backs and I ask again myself, like, why did I take this career path at the very beginning? Then I break it down and I feel that, okay, I have this interest. I really like solving problems and I really like solving puzzles and I really like, fixing things. I really like disassemble and assembling things. So when I think about that and I move on with the thought, I feel that, okay, you know what? This is what I like. I'm feeling demotivated because I've overworked. I'm feeling demotivated because I'm feeling fatigue. So I've overworked and I'm feeling fatigue. So that somehow affected my emotional state and thinking that I don't like my job. And
I'm sorry, Amira, I think you're hanging a little.
to
Hello, Amira, are you still with us?
which part? Like which? Yes, yes. Can you hear?
We can sort of hear you now. We heard you up to the point where you were saying like, oh, you know that you're feeling demotivated because of certain reasons like being fatigued. Oh, hi, Amira, are you back? Okay, so we heard you up to the point where you were saying you felt you figure out you're demotivated because of what reasons, like you're feeling fatigued or you're feeling overworked.
Yeah. I had that feeling. So I went and talked to my boss. I opted for asking for a longer project, meaning it doesn't require me to be coming every weekend. You know, then I started to be motivating myself. Okay, you know what? Hey, you like this job? It's just that you're tired. You like this job? It's just that you're fatigued. That's all. So there are times when you work in the future, you will feel overworked and fatigued. But at that time, please do not self-damaging yourself and thinking that okay, I don't like this job, but actually you do. It's just that you're tired, penat. So always take a step back, have a pause, spend with yourself, reflect back, and see where you want to go from there. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Amira. So
sorry, guys, my internet. If you can bear with me.
it's okay. So this is the issue when we have events through Zoom. Wi-Fi isn't always stable.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Sorry.
After this, we were talking about so now that I know what I like, I know what to pursue, and I know a way to keep myself motivated. So I'm feeling confident about the job. But let's say now I'm applying for a job. How do I write an appealing resume to make employers feel like, oh, I'm the guy for the job? I should be.
I think for starter, try not to use the same resume for like the 500 job that you apply on, if that makes sense. Don't use one template for everything. And then always read your own resume like 3 times minimum before you send it out, just to make sure that there's no very obvious mistakes in grammar or spelling. Those kind of things, especially in because now I work in comms, right? So like for comms, it's like super important. If you cannot even like get your own spelling right or the grammar right, then it's like don't really know like how else can you prove yourself besides that lah. Because like as a fresh grad, like with let's say minimal internship experiences, then like the little things and the little details is the deciding factor for if your resume gets passed to like interview stage or not, right? So just make sure that all this very minor but obvious mistakes should not be spotted on your resume for starters. I don't know about the rest of you lah, but I would say ChatGPT has been a good help lately. If I may, I'm all about like, if there are tools that make our lives slightly easier, especially when it comes to like writing, I'm all for it. So I would say ChatGPT.
Yeah, I think with the tools that we have nowadays with AI, grammatical errors on your resume is a complete no-no. So I don't usually look at resumes with more than 2 grammatical or typo errors. It's very important for you to make it look like you have read through your resume very well and make sure that it's on point. But I think in terms of what should be included, there are a lot of tutorials on this even, or even on Instagram nowadays. You see a lot of those tips from ex-recruiters who now run their own firms, who give advice on how it should look like and what you should include, the structure and all that. So just follow that. But I think different industries also have different expectations in terms of resume. Like from my line of work, we like those very boring style of resumes. But I know those who are in architecture, they have to come up with a portfolio to support their application. And I think similarly for those in computer science as well, they have to show some of the products that you have worked on while studying or throughout your past experiences. So it differs. So you'll have to really talk to someone from that industry to actually know the expectations. And one industry is very different from another's. As Sylvia said, you need to have different.
I want to add on a little bit. Like in my line of work, it's more technical, right? But then doesn't mean that the few little details is not important and being put on my resume. So I can put, like, for example, because I'm volunteering with Impact, I put as like I'm a facilitator, I'm carrying out workshops to train people. So somehow that becomes appealing, although it doesn't really put in a lot of weight directly on my line of work, but then they will be thinking that, oh, you can train people. They will ask you that kind of question. Betul nak letak, tapi actually you can letak, because that somehow can make a conversation with your interviewers. They will somehow want to ask you that, oh, you have this interest, you have this skills, like especially when you have a skill whereby that is totally different. For example, you're good at videography or you're good at photography. Certain companies, they would appreciate if you have that kind of skill. Just put it down, because you will never know. Sometimes you're gonna be like macam an executive, tapi but when they are carrying out an event, they will use you or they will use your skills. So it kind of can give you macam an added point lah compared to the others. Sebab orang lain pun ada degree. Orang kedua, ketiga also ada degree. Tapi but what makes you different? You're good at photography, or you're good at videography, or you can edit videos, or you can do public speaking or something. So benda macam tu can be stand out, and also give an opportunity for interviews to ask more questions during your interview.
Actually, I have a question, guys. Amira and Siti.
Yeah.
How far back do you guys encourage them to put in their experience? Because like personally, I've come across like resumes that they include like high school involvement, and then to me, I was like, oh, isn't it a bit like too far back? So I don't know, like how far back do you guys think it's like reasonable?
I recently went for interview, so I put in my resume like 5 years back, 5 tahun ke belakang. But I also put like achievements that I have, like for example, macam awards that I get. Although that is in 2013 or 2011, I put it there. But we are talking about like events that you have carried out before. For example, spearheading an event of camp, like for example, like Camp Bina Diri, that is in 2008. That is too far back, but you can use in a way that put in a point forward by experience in carrying out or spearheading a project or co-project with this person or macam tu lah. So you don't need to specifically put years. You can put like what you can do. That is my opinion, but I don't know whether it works with other line of industries yang lain lah.
Yeah,
I would say back.
For me, it's all about relevance. If you're relevant, your skill is relevant, your previous experience is relatable to what we do as a company, by all means, put it. Of course, sometimes you have different range of experiences, right? Like Sylvia here has done more than 100 volunteers, yes, our programs. But if you're applying to, say, a Bill Gates Foundation, you have to choose maybe something that showcases your skills the most out of the 100 other projects that you have done, so that you can show to your next employer that the skills that you have from this activity, from this project, will be most relatable to that employer's interest. So that is important. Like now, I'm not a lawyer anymore, so I don't put much of my legal experience in my CV for me to say, to consider applying for other jobs. But there are some parts of the legal work that I've done which might be relevant, like for example, the research part, the analysis part, the managing difficult situations part, crisis. So some of those are still relevant, but it depends on how you want to show it in your CV. It doesn't necessarily have to be in the form of experience, but it could be in the skill segment, for example. So you got to be creative a bit.
Yeah, I think also like more beyond what we have just discussed is also not more is more. Like not more is better. Don't list like every single thing down. Sometimes that does more harm than it does help.
Like sometimes less is better. Like for me, right, because I play around with a lot of different types of aircraft. So I'm a licensed aircraft engineer. My type rating is Boeing 737 and A320. So imagine if I don't put one of the aircraft in. So people wouldn't know that I can carry out the work on that aircraft. But then again, if I'm trying to go into, if I try to land an interview into a company that specializes in Airbus A320, although I have a lot of experience in Boeing 737, so I need to push more on A320, meaning I need to put A320 first because I'm highlighting that portion, although I'm having little experience on that, because I want the employer to look at me that, oh, I have this, although I have another one. So what Hafiz is saying, that the relevancy of your input, like apa yang you ada, macam mana you nak push it forward for people to macam, budak ni ada betul ni dah. So yeah, that. So put it down. Some resume I've seen memang ada banyak wording. My place, people engineer memang straightforward. People like point form, numbers, bullets, do it that way. So tengok siapa yang you have to go to lah, like what kind of job that you need to go to.
Thanks, panelists, for all those insights into how to write a good resume. So for everyone's information, if you're interested in knowing more about how to write an appealing resume, how to present yourself well on a piece of paper, you can take part in a resume writing workshop that we'll be having sometime around October. So we'll have updates on our Instagram, Yes Alumni Mas. So feel free to follow us there and just keep on the lookout for the next opening the floor to our participants to ask questions. So feel free to do so. You can unmute yourself to a specific panelist if you want to know more about your industry. And so I'll ask one question after this to give you all time to think about what you want to ask. But in the meantime, feel free to just leave your questions in the chat box if you have any. Okay, so the last question for me for now is, there's a lot of talk about, I hear this from my siblings, that the younger generation, the fresh grads nowadays, their salary. So they'll be complaining about, oh, my salary isn't enough. They'll be negotiating for salaries that people might think are too high. So what are your views on this? Do you think that it is a trend nowadays? And if it is, how do we manage our expectations while entering the workforce so that we don't ask for too much?
Yeah, so first of all, we'll have to understand what's the industry's average, because I know that the average starting salary here in Malaysia is about 2,007 and above, a month. I know quite a number of jobs that pay that. So you need to understand the scale or the salary scale of the industry that you want to enter. And then from your conversations with people who are already in that industry, the issue is not so much about salaries anymore, but like my firm, for example, we don't have a salary scale. And if you are asking for an X amount and I think you're not worth that X amount, I won't pay that X amount. But if you say that you're at that X amount and I think you're more than that and I really want you to join immediately, then I'll just increase from that X amount. So again, it comes back to relevance. But in the situation, you have to ask yourself, so are you comfortable with being lowball? Are you comfortable with salary for 1 or 2 years before you use it as a stepping stone? Like Abira mentioned, some people use companies as stepping stones. It's fine. You'll have to ask yourself about this. I think that's the key takeaway.
Okay, so
it's more or less the same.
Okay, good. If that's all, then we can move on to our first question from one of the participants. So recently, I just created an account to, how do you benefit from LinkedIn in your working life? And as a university student, how can I benefit from it?
I think I can answer that. I currently now use LinkedIn as to view videos and also a summary write-up about new knowledge. Like, for example, although I'm working as a aircraft engineer, I go and search for people when, they do like communication skills write-up a little bit, how some of them, they share a little bit how they, how to say it, their experiences in dealing with a certain project. So sometimes they will write their experience, the solutions that they take, the path that they take to solve a problem. So I like to read that because it can somehow, improve my soft skills lah. So I use LinkedIn as that. So although you are in university currently now, so it's not fully, you think that it's not fully benefiting you currently, but actually it can be a place where you source out for new knowledge and source out for new information. So it's like macam a professional of Twitter. I do it I view LinkedIn as that lah sometimes. So there are videos that are being played. Like for example, like for me, aircraft kan, they are macam processes in removing components. So there are few other people who share it in a video form. So I am able to see it, that component is being removed or being disassembled, because sometimes certain things I tak pernah buat because you are not expert in everything when you are carrying out aircraft maintenance. So I go out and I seek certain things on LinkedIn. Yeah, I use it as that.
I think on top of like videos and the posts that LinkedIn has, right? LinkedIn can also be seen as a learning platform, because actually LinkedIn do have a lot of like free courses available on LinkedIn. I don't know if you guys are aware, but there is like a whole lot of LinkedIn skills program that you can take on, like, project management or what on, that just sort of, and then I think if you complete it, you get a badge on your profile, even some of it. So as a university student, I think it's also one of those things that you can tap on, because it's free, you don't have to pay. It's a good place to explore as well and learn.
Yeah, I'll answer that as well. I use LinkedIn quite a lot. I think some of you might know this. So I use LinkedIn to get to know people that I wouldn't have otherwise known, right? And people think LinkedIn is a place where you sell yourself, but not really. LinkedIn is a place where you network to learn from other people that you think have very interesting experiences. They might know some things better than you don't. And they are people that you wouldn't have otherwise met on Facebook and Instagram, and they are more than happy to talk to you sometimes. And I use LinkedIn mainly to share my views, and I receive a lot of messages exchanging opinions from what I've said as well, which is very useful, because in my line of work, I always need to talk to people to get to know different views so that I can be better, and other people can also express some of their concerns so that we can come to a middle point for better analysis, for example. So LinkedIn is very useful. As a university student, it's a great place. For example, Mustaqim, you want to join Kazana after 3 years, and you don't know how to get in there. And I have to tell you that if you apply for all these jobs, Kazana, Bank Negara, EPF, whatever, the big companies, right, they will not be able to differentiate between you and 90 or 100 other people applying for the same job. So the best way for you to get people from inside those big companies to get to know you is for you to talk to them, right? And LinkedIn is a great way. Say, for example, Caesar, you want to do equity research at Maybank Investment Bank. Just search equity research, Maybank Investment. 5 people's names are going to come out that have mutual connections with you. Then you figure out who are they. One of them is probably Sylvia. Then you ask Sylvia, do you know this guy? And then Sylvia can connect you to that guy. And then you get to know you'll get to know that guy and speak to him probably, right? Then that guy will give you advice. How do you get into equity research, not just at Maybank, but probably some of the other banks that he has joined before. And in 2 years, by the time that you are about to finish your last semester, you get a job interview. That's how it works. So that's networking. LinkedIn is very useful for that.
Thanks for all those answers. So now I don't have a LinkedIn account. After hearing all that, I think I also want to create one already. So yeah, I think yeah, it does sound very useful. And even as a uni student, I think I want to start maybe creating and adding stuff to mine. Okay, so now for our next question, is specifically for Sylvia. So this person, I have a question regarding consulting. I'm interested in this specific industry, but I find it difficult because I come from a psychology background. Is there anything I can do to prepare if I want to work as a consultant?
I think for my peers around me all took sort of like those in consultancy took more or less a similar route which is that they first land a job that is in line with the consultancy firm that they want to go in a specific area, like for example digital transformation or whatnot. And then from there they pave their way into the consultancy firm. That's more or less the generic way. But I mean it's quite vague here. Consultancy is a whole for me, what I'm doing is also like I was working like an in-house foundation, and then with that experience I got recruited into the current company that is providing service in running the programs for like as an outsourced consultant. So yeah, I think experience, because I don't know about you guys, but in consultancy or like in where I work, right, the degree is not really very important. Like it's not of what you studied, it's more of like if you have a degree or not. And then like from the interview, assessing the skills and the understanding of like the role that the person is interviewing for, and then they're on deciding if this person is suitable or not. Yeah, but like I'm not too sure about big firms because I've not applied to like EY per se or McKinsey, but I don't know, McKinsey has a whole lot of competency tests that you have to go through even before you get an interview. So yeah. Any thoughts about this, guys?
Yeah, I love all courses. I'm bored of law, engineering, finance graduates, right? So I like to interview people with psychology background or history or political science, liberal arts, because to me, it's all about how you view things. And as part of what I do in consultancy, comms is a critical area. Okay, is for you to understand how other people think. And psychology is a great fit for that. So I think in this scope, right, in this context of conversation, psychology graduates, you have plenty of opportunities if you're interested to explore something that's not clinical. For example, communications, it can be corporate communications, it can be strategic communications, it can be branding, advertising, or even management consultancy. So, because by the end of it, consultancy, you deal with people, humans' behavior, and how people think. It's a great fit. But maybe you should be able to understand about the other aspects than just psychology as well. Maybe some knowledge about finance, some knowledge about maybe organizational skills, or you can learn on the side. But there's no issue with having a different degree or even psychology. I think these are all interesting options.
Yeah, I think reading. If you ask me, like, what is one thing that maybe you need to prep or like look out for before landing a job, I think reading and knowing things. So let's say if you're like particularly interested in like technology transformation consultancy, so go like read about tech, read about like what's out there, what's like IR4 or whatever. Just know the things so that you can understand actually what you're signing up for and what you are signing yourself up for, and also like showing that you genuinely know what you're signing yourself up for. Because I think some of the time, sorry, this is like a bit of a sidetrack, but most of the times, not most last, some of the time people come in not knowing what they are applying for. So yeah.
Okay, thanks. Hopefully that answers your question, Celine. So sorry to the audience because I don't think we have enough time to go through all the questions, but I'll pick some. And for the rest, if you're really interested in knowing the answers to those questions, feel free to message us at Yes Alumni Mass, and we'll refer it to our panelists and get back to you afterwards. So for the next question, I think this one, a lot of AFS returnees especially will want to know. So question for all panelists, did you guys mention your exchange year experience during interview? If yes, how do you guys relate your experience to the jobs that you are applying for?
Yeah, there's no harm mentioning it, but it's been a while for me, more than 10 years ago. So I don't put it on my CV, but if people ask if you have anything interesting or, they will ask you to say, tell me about yourself. That is not in the resume, right? Maybe you can say that. And maybe some questions are going to be more behavioral. They call it fit test. So they'll ask you questions like, how have you been out of your comfort zone? So you can say that, when I was 18 after SPM, I went to the US by myself and lived with other people, right? And I was the only non-Caucasian person in that town, for example. So that's a great value. And sometimes people don't ask specifically if you have lived abroad before, you have lived in a different environment, how you adapted yourself to a new environment, and how do you overcome challenges. So all the experiences during the exchange years are very useful to answer those kind of fit.
Yeah, I think for me also, like it's been like 11 years, so it's a bit odd for me to say, oh yeah, I went to US 10 years ago. It sounds so long ago. But I think more to the being an AFS exchange student is also like your key that opens doors for you. It's not necessarily like an add-on to your resume that automatically elevates your resume per se. But like, it's also it's a key that leads you to different things. Like I did an internship with Uber when I was still studying, and it's because of AFS again that I got that opportunity. So sometimes it's not about just putting like exchange or defining like your exchange year as just an experience as part of your resume, but it's also like how you use this opportunity and this great network that we have here to open doors for
Mine
you.
is a little bit different
So,
than both Hafiz and Sylvia. My current job actually, other than being an aircraft engineer at my company, I train staff in the company. So when I have a free time, a certain period of time where I have to being excused from my job as an aircraft engineer, I will carry out trainings. So recently I went for an interview, so I had to mention that I carry out trainings for staff, meaning an internal training. So they asked me how can I have the qualification to train. Then I mentioned that I've been sent for a course, and my company realized that I can do trainings because I've carried out trainings outside of my work, which is in EFS. So when I mentioned in the EFS, I had to somehow mention about my program and exchange program. So it's something that I need to cerita. Then they understand, me as someone who is like 5 years of experience being an LAE, but almost around 7 to 8 years of experience in my industry, I can become an instructor, because usually people who becomes an instructor, they are 10 years and above already in the industry or becoming an engineer. So that's when I had to explain to them I got these skills from EFS activities, EFS events. So in a way, terpaksa lah cerita. Tapi but it became like macam a good casual talk with my interviewers lepas tu. So it's nice lah somehow. Sometimes you can drop the bomb at the very beginning, or you can somehow bagi sikit at the very end when they say that macam, please introduce yourself. I believe for someone who is not like us, meaning you are fresh graduate going for interview, it's nice to mention, because they will feel that macam you are someone who already experienced handling with people from different cultures. So meaning you are able to manage conflicts or in a way that good at communicating. Macam tu. Tapi but someone like us, people yang dah memang kerja for a few years, for us to suddenly mention that what happened back then ago, macam kenapa kau nak beritahu aku benda ni? Like that. So tengok how it is.
Okay, thanks for those responses. So whether or not you're able to use that exchange experience in the resume, I'm sure we can all agree that our exchange experience would definitely be useful in helping us be more employable, since we've developed certain soft skills after our exchange. And yeah, I think it's a good thing to have, not necessarily to put on your resume or to show up during your interview, but just for you to equip yourself with those certain skills. So I think we have time for one last question from Ashraf. Okay, so he has a question. In Malaysia, there are talks about oversaturation of jobs, such as doctors and engineers, due to many people careers, or should they choose another career?
To me, yes, because we need these jobs, we need these professionals to be part of our nation building. Number two, if you really want to be an engineer or doctor, it's entirely up to you. Just because you've studied it doesn't mean that you have to be one. But if you choose to be one, be well aware of the challenges that you might be facing. But number three, I believe that if you're a quality candidate, right, regardless if you're a doctor or engineer or anyone else, I think the path is going to be slightly easier for you because people recognize qualities right away. And of course, for doctors, it's a bit harder because your first employment, the housemanship, will depend on the government's intake. And of course, after you're finished, then it depends on where you're going to be posted. On the timing might be differing, might differ from one person to another, depending on availability. So those are the risks that you'll have to be mindful of. But if you still want to be a doctor, by all means, go ahead. There's no issue with that. But there are also people that I know who have worked as doctors and engineers that later on decided to be something that is not necessarily clinical if you're a doctor or practical if you're an engineer, but they will move on into other roles, like they move on into public health, they move on into management, into ops. There's no problem because the skills that you have are transferable into something new that you do, and then you're going to be better than everyone else because you've got practical or relevant exposures, right? Like my immediate boss, he's an engineer. So he's got a master's in engineering, in fact, in chemical engineering, but he's not practicing as a chemical engineer anymore. I'm trained as a corporate lawyer. I'm an expert in corporate law, having a master's in corporate law, but I'm not doing corporate law now. But what I know from my years of studying corporate law allows me to be a better consultant than other consultants perhaps in this field, right? So it's really subjective. So do whatever that you want to do, but be very well aware of the risks and the challenges that you'll have to face. But most important,
Yeah, I think I totally agree with what Hafizi said. Like, if you want to do something, just make sure you do your best and you stand out. The key is to want to stand out because there can be 1,000 doctors or there can be 1,000 engineers, but not 1,000 of them are all great or excellent. So your aim is to be that 1,000 and the 1,001 really, really great doctor that people recognize or the really, really great engineer. That being said, right, not necessarily means moving into a less saturated career or industry is better or less competitive because you also face a different set of challenges. For example, right, let's say engineering or doctor is quite saturated, right? But then that means there's a lot of development and structures and frameworks that's available for growth, for development, for you to refer to for your own improvement. Going into a new industry or a relatively cold industry, right? Then your challenges could be not having enough resources to grow within Malaysia, not enough career path for you to grow further enough to have quote unquote your own success in that path, or very sometimes it's even very limited job opportunities available within Malaysia. So at the end of the day, it's what you want to do and how you define your success, I would say.
Okay, do the panelists want to add on anything else? Or is there any final piece of advice or general comments you'd like to give to our participants before we end this session? Okay, if not, before I move on, I would like to kindly ask the participants to stay back after this, because after this we'll have some feedback forms and photo taking session. So please just stay here for a few more minutes while we wrap up. So, okay, with that, I'd like to formally thank all of our panelists for joining us today, just staying here for an hour and a half and talking about all their experiences, sharing valuable advice to all our participants. I'm sure that they all find all of your advice to be helpful, and I hope that it helps them to make better decisions on their way to their first job or maybe even their first degree, and help them plan out what their next steps are going to be. Okay, so Shanine, would you like to? Okay, yeah, thank you. So, like I mentioned just now, after this, somewhere in around October, we'll have a resume and LinkedIn workshop specifically for those who want to work on your resumes and know how to present yourself in your resume or LinkedIn. So do look out for that. And if you haven't already, please follow us on Instagram at Yes Alumni Mas, and we'll be posting all the updates about upcoming events there. So keep on the lookout. And we hope to see you again next time in the next part of our Adulting Basics series. Okay, so the last thing I'd like to mention is for you to scan the QR code we have on screen here so that we can get some feedback. And it's very valuable because we'll know how to better tailor our events in the future to better suit all your needs. So please answer the feedback form. Okay, so I'll give you all a few seconds to do that. And oh yeah, like I said, unfortunately, there isn't enough time to address every single question in the chat box. If you really feel like asking the panelists more questions, feel free to DM us on Instagram. We'll direct those questions to the panelists and get back to you.
Or you could just connect to them on LinkedIn. Hafizi is
okay,
quite
that's a
active
very
on
good
LinkedIn.
idea.
So I say if you have questions for Hafizi, please LinkedIn message him.
I don't mind on Instagram. Instagram is fine too, or whatever.
So yeah, that's true. Or you can just like shoot a text on WhatsApp. Boleh, semua boleh.
Okay, so our panelists are all very cool people. Just feel free to reach out to them if you have any more burning questions. And I think that should be enough time for you all to scan the QR code. And now I'd like to request everyone, if you're able to turn on your cameras for our photo taking session. Come on, don't be shy. We just want to take one picture to commemorate this. Okay, who's taking the picture again? Shanine, is it you?
Yes, give me a moment while I set it up. Okay, all right. So there's a few sessions here, so just let me take all of you guys. Okay. All right. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Okay, one more. Okay. And 3, 2, 1. Okay. Oh, they have okay. One more. Just one more. I promise. I promise. Okay. Right. Ready? 3, 2. Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all.
So, okay, that concludes our event for today. So you may leave now. Okay, I hope you all enjoyed the event and will continue joining our future events. Okay, so see you all soon. Bye.
Everyone, all the best.
Bye bye.